Hey, everybody, it's Wes from 4x4 Canada podcast.
Hi, everyone, and it's Trisha, your host again from 4x4 Canada podcast. Thanks for joining us today.
Trisha, happy episode number 69.
You too, Wes. You too. Happy episode 69.
As she cringes. That's my 12-year-old little boy coming out. As mentioned, episode 69. We've been going for a year and a half, and it's been a total blast. I have been having so much fun with all of our guests and all of our listeners that we've been meeting and greeting and meeting on social media, etc.
Mhm.
Trisha, you've been with us since March, I believe.
Yeah, the spring.
Yeah. And you originally were a guest on the show, right? With the GTA Jeep Girls.
I was, yes. And it all started from there.
And the rest is history. She enjoyed it so much. She asked to help out a bit more and said, come on, be a guest host. And then she realized how much work it is. So it's not just sitting here talking and laughing. It's a lot of connecting with future guests and doing the research on the guests and booking times and all the social media. You've been a huge help on the social media side with Instagram.
Thank you.
I gotta appreciate that. And you've been a huge help to me as well with the show. We definitely wouldn't be here where we are today without your help. So definitely appreciate you.
Thank you, Wes. And thank you for letting me join and saying yes. And it's been just a fun thing to be doing. And like you said, meeting people and going to events and just being part of the community is just awesome.
We do have a really great community, I have to admit. I call them 4x4 Canada podcast family or the 4x4 Canada family. And I can say I got so many friends I've met because of this podcast from coast to coast. And even the East Coasters, Ryan from Hub City Overlanding, and there's lots of guys over there on Instagram and that I know that when I come out there to visit, they'll be there in a heartbeat to sit around a campfire with me. So we've just met so many wonderful people with the podcast.
We have.
Having said that, I do want to invite people, if you want to be a guest on the podcast, or if you know somebody that you think would make a wonderful guest, hit us up, let us know, throw us a DM on Instagram or our website at 4x4canadapodcast.com. We have a form. It's at the top of the header. And I have to admit, I can't remember what it says now, but be a guest, I think is what it says. Fill out the information. And we would love to hear, because there's only some certain amount of people that Trisha and I know. I'm in BC, Trisha's in Ontario, and we do have different backgrounds. I got more of a background with the racing than she does, but she knows more of the Jeep world in Ontario. And so we do know a lot of people, but we want to learn more, right? There's some wonderful and exciting people out there that we don't know about. So if you want to be a guest or somebody you think should be a guest, hit us up. And speaking of guests, it's been quite interesting. I'm really curious as to what people actually want to hear. I look at the stats and I got an idea what people are listening more to, but there's a lot of things that I want to listen to or I want to discuss with guests, and whether it be the overlanding scene or whether it be the working with our elders, with people that were four-wheeling and racing in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. But I definitely want to hear from our listeners, what do you guys actually want to listen to? Do you guys want to listen to more the overlanding stuff, more the racing stuff, more the YouTube, more Canadian companies, etc.? What about you, Trisha? What are you looking for when it comes to interviewing people? What's your interest on that?
So my interest, I do love the history, and I do love having our episodes when you're meeting, like you said, the elders or people who started the racing 4x4 and just learning about the history. And it just gives more of a camaraderie of the 4x4 community. I also love anything racing, not just slow Jeeps. So I do love like the racings and the monster trucks and something a little bit different as well, just to have a flavor on the podcast. One thing I do and would love to have more moving into 2024 is have more female wheelers. So if you know anyone, you want to give them a shout out or just message us to be like, hey, this lady is like awesome, or check out her YouTube, or check out their Instagram, send us a message, send us a DM or online on our website. And that's something I really want to do, Wes, this year, is get more female wheelers on.
I agree 100%. I'm going to throw one out to you, a young lady that I've actually been talking to that we're going to get on the show here that you're going to be super excited to talk to. And that is Nicole McCrossan. Her dad was one of her first guests. He races an early Bronco, raced it down in the Nora 1000, etc. And she has been racing his old Bronco that he raced in the 90s, short course off-road racing in Ontario. So I was talking to Nicole and I said, we got to get you on. And she's, I'm all over it. I got to work out a date between the three of us so we can get on. And I know that being a female, you're going to love it, but also the fact of the racing. And I really hope that you can be able to work out, you can attend one of the races this year. And hopefully we can get you thrown into a race vehicle if we stop, talk sweetly to Nicole or some of the other racers. I think that it'd be really neat to have you hop in there and get that real experience, right?
That would be awesome. I'll get my gear ready. I have my helmet. I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
So yes, Nicole, we're going to be talking to Nicole soon. And we're also going to be talking to some of the ladies that have gone down to the Rebel Rally. And hopefully in January, could be an episode with them as well too. But as Trisha mentioned, if you are a lady or if you know of another lady that you would love to hear on the show, shoot us a DM, shoot us an email, however you want to get a hold of us, Facebook, whatever. And we would love to hear more from the ladies. Now, speaking of things that we have done in the past, and I was talking about the stats and how I see what people are really enjoying or downloading more. But we have got some really neat stats this year that we thought we'd throw just, to me, it's interesting. So hopefully our listeners enjoy it as well. Starting off with the countries where we've been downloaded. Obviously, Canada has been the most popular by far, and the United States is a distant second. But we've been listened to in more than 56 countries around the world. So there's 139 countries in the world, and we've been listened to 56 out of 139 countries in the world. That kind of blew me away when I saw that. And they may not be huge downloads. There might be, say, 5 downloads or something like that. But there's countries like Jamaica where you wouldn't think of people are listening to the 4x4 Canada podcast. So I thought that was neat. I do have a quick list of the ones that we have, our top 10, I say, where we have the most download. And starting off, number 10 is Brazil. And then number 9, it surprised me, and that's Iran. It was our 9th most downloaded country. Number 8 is India. And number 7 is Mexico. And I have to probably think some of that is from my good friends Bill and Trisha. And I want to thank you guys for listening there. But there's more than just them down there listening to us, obviously. Number 6 was South Africa. And South Africa is a very well-known country that a lot of overlanding happens. So to our South African listeners, thank you for listening to us. The next top 5 were a big jump above those other countries, but Australia is our number 5 most downloaded country, which is a very popular 4x4 and overlanding community there as well. Number 3 and number 4 were quite close, and I don't look at these stats very often, but I think they jump back and forth because they're very close on their download numbers. But then right now, 4th most downloaded country we have for 4x4 Canada is the UK. And right there with it at number 3 is Germany, which kind of surprised me on both of those.
Wow.
Yeah. And then USA and Canada, of course. But I thought that was quite interesting that we've got 56 countries around the world.
Thanks, guys. All around the world, those 56 countries, wherever you are.
When it comes into cities, that's another quite interesting stat that I'm not sure if our listeners are super interested in it, but I love it. So I'm going to go through it quickly. But all of our top 10 cities are in Canada. The highest downloaded USA city is Anchorage, Alaska.
Alaska.
Yeah, Anchorage, Alaska is our most downloaded city for listens to the podcast. So I thought that's quite interesting. It may have something to do with Ryan. He is Alaska Early Broncos. on Instagram. And I know he follows us and comments, and we've messaged back and forth with him. And that, part of that because I'm an early Bronco lover. But Ryan, I want to thank you for your support. But I know all these downloads are not just Ryan. So thank you to all the other listeners out in Alaska and as well as all over the rest of the states. Thank you for all of our listeners. But let's quickly run through those top 10 cities that we've been downloaded. It's quite interesting, I think, that Montreal is our 10th most downloaded. And number 9 is New Westminster. And one thing I should mention is these numbers do move around a little bit, but they're pretty consistent in what our top 10 are. So 10 is Montreal, 9 is New Westminster, BC, which is a Vancouver suburb, for those who don't know. Number 8 is Vernon, BC, which is a small community in the interior of British Columbia, but that doesn't surprise me because a lot of overlanding crews there. We've interviewed 2 of them before, Okanagan Overlanding and Ryan Van Veen, and I've got quite a few friends over in Vernon area. Vernon's sitting at number 8. Number 7 is Brampton. And number 6 is Edmonton. And number 5 is my hometown, Kamloops. Thank you to all my friends and for listening. Number 4 is Surrey, which is a suburb of Vancouver as well. And number 3, Trisha, is Toronto. And number 2 is Calgary. Calgary is well known as being a mecca for 4x4 people, and really happen to see that Calgary is our second most downloaded city for 2023. So the number 1, you remember what the number 1 is? No, it's not Toronto. Toronto's not the center of everything right now. You guys are not number 1 in everything. Just look at your hockey team.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
But our number 1 most downloaded city in Canada is
Vancouver.
You betcha. Beautiful Vancouver. So I really want to thank everybody. This is just more of a fun thing. It doesn't really mean anything in the scope of things, but I just thought it was cool to look at it. And we want to thank all of our listeners, not just the ones that we mentioned in country-wise or in city-wise. We love all of our listeners. And another thought too is if anybody has any suggestions on how we can maybe spread the good word of 4x4 Canada podcast. How can we help spread the word about us? And if anybody's got any good suggestions, we do have the Instagram and Facebook and that, but if anybody has any suggestions on what we can do to increase our coverage, we're always open to ideas. Gonna hop into the most downloaded episodes of 2023. And I hemmed and hawed about doing this because all of our shows have been great. We've had great guests, and these numbers are bouncing around. So I'm going to say probably from the top 6 to the top 20 are consistently moving up and down kind of ideas. So we're going to list the top 10 as of tonight. It is December 21st on Thursday. But some of these numbers may change and they do bounce around. But I do want to throw a shout out to these guests for our top 10 as of right now. But once again, we love all of our guests and we've had some great episodes all the way through. So ironically, Trisha, our worst downloads, or I shouldn't say our worst, but our episodes with less downloads are when it's just you and me.
Wow.
That's got to say something about us, right?
Come on, guys. You don't love the sounds of our voices.
People are more interested in our guests than they are us, which is a wonderful thing to have, right?
That's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I found it quite comical. But hopping into these number 10 most download episodes in 2023, at number 10, and again, like I say, these are bouncing all around all the time, but right as of this moment is number 10 is Adams Off-Road in Langley, British Columbia. And I did a really good interview with Adam. We went over a lot of his background and a lot of the products that he carries that a lot of other people don't carry. And they've got a great customer service. Everything I've heard about has been really good. So check him out, that episode out, Adams Off-Road. He's also on Adams Off-Road on Instagram. And he does a lot on there as well. Number 9, was our Subaru boys from Calgary, Flat 4 Off-Road. They specialize in Subarus and other crossovers. I think that is a up-and-coming market, the whole soft rotor thing, especially when you combine it with overlanding. And they do a great job with all the crossovers and Subarus in Calgary. And again, you can check them on Instagram or YouTube at Flat 4 Off-Road. That was a really good interview. I learned a lot on that one myself about Subarus. I'm not a huge car guy, but I did learn a lot. Our number 8 most listened to was Chris from Overland Training Canada. And that was actually just recently. And that one was a really good interview. We covered a lot of different topics. Yeah, that was a really fun one. And we talked not only about the training that he does to help people do recoveries and that, but he is also in charge of all the training for the Overland Expo events in the States. He's worked with the people that are going around the globe, the I can't remember exactly the title of it, but there's a whole expedition touring around the globe going north to south kind of idea. And so we talked about that a bit. And that was just a really interesting interview. Chris has got so much knowledge. And so that was Overland Training Canada episode, and that's sitting in 8th. 7th was my interview with Summit Expedition Trucks, and they make the aluminum flat decks out of the Edmonton area. And that was quite an interesting interview as well, too. They make a really neat product in there, and a lot of insight into the world of manufacturing as well. So number 6 was my good friend, Ryan Van Veen. He's at Ryan Van Veen Photography on Instagram, and he has incredible photos. We talked about a lot of different things. We talked about overlanding, we talked about winter camping, we talked about forest fire lookouts in BC, and that was a really great episode. And really happy that Ryan is sitting in at number 6 most downloaded in 2023. Now, the 5th most downloaded episode for 4x4 Canada podcast, that's where I met you.
Yep. It was.
It was the beginning of the... So you want to tell our listeners about this one?
So the 5th episode is when myself and Nikki from the GTAG Girls came and joined West, and we basically spoke about our club, which is GTAG Girls out here in Ontario and the GTA area. We talked about wheeling and ladies events and just women growing in industry and how it's definitely changing and it's definitely a different dynamic out there. It was great. And that was basically what we talked about.
Yeah, that was a great episode. It was really a pleasure having both of you ladies on, and really happy to see that the GTA Jeep Girls is such a strong, I shouldn't say force, but force in Ontario, and basically empowering women to get out and enjoy four-wheeling, and real strong camaraderie from what I've seen anyways. Number 4 most downloaded episode in 2023 was our friends over at Go Overland Canada. Do you want to explain that one?
Yes, so Go Overland Canada, awesome. I was with Vito and myself and West, and we spoke about the rooftop tents and all the different gear that they have for overlanding and how much they're growing here in Ontario and in Canada as well, and the States as well, and have a lot of views. And I was happy for them because they're a newer rooftop tent company. So to see them grow so fast. And I have some friends here in Ontario that run their tents as well. And so nothing but great merchandise from them.
Yeah, they definitely have a really good product from everything I've heard, and everybody seems to be pretty happy with it. That was a really good chat with Vito from Go Overland Canada about the rooftop tents and what sets their tents apart from others. So number 3 is a interesting gentleman. I was talking to him a couple weeks ago, and I know you've been talking to him as well. And he's been totally blown away that his episode is the 3rd most downloaded episode in 2023. You want to tell our listeners all about this gentleman?
Yes. 3rd most downloaded episode. Michael. Yes, it's you. It is you. Michael, Instagram is 6runner, number 6runner. who has a beautiful 5th-gen Toyota 4Runner on, I believe, 38s now since we spoke to him. Beautiful rig, beautiful photography. Check him out. Yes, and he is based in Ontario and part of the TRD North and the Ontario 4Runners Association as well. So check him out.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was definitely a different one for us. He doesn't have a YouTube channel, but he really shines on his Instagram, and he's quite
Mhm.
involved in the Toyota family in
Yeah.
Ontario. It was just a lot of fun interview just talking with him. So our top 2 most downloaded episodes have been going back and forth on a bit on it, but they were 2 of my personal favorites. I've loved every episode I've done, but these guys, I really enjoyed the chats that I had with these gentlemen. It was like just sitting around the campfire and chatting about different things. But our second most downloaded for 2023 was Vil from Crave Automotive. They're a Toyota 4x4 specialist in Calgary, and they do anything with Toyota Tacomas and 4Runners. What they install, what they sell, they ship all over the country, and they're just a wealth of knowledge for the Toyota 4x4 crowd. Vil is also known as Geo Scout Adventures on Instagram, and that's GEO and then Scout Adventures. And he has incredible photography. The photography is top notch with Vil. And yeah, just absolutely incredible. So check him out at Geo Scout Adventures, as well as Crave Automotive on Instagram as well, or Facebook, whichever your preference is. But that was a great conversation. Me being a Tacoma owner, I have some things coming up that I wanted some input from him on modifications and things like that to do on my Tacoma, and everything from upper control arms to what brand do you choose? There's 20 brands out there. And we talked about pros and cons of each, and we got into some technical stuff, but then we just got into some cool, just wheeling stuff as well too. That was a really fun episode for myself. And that was Vil from Crave Automotive. So our most downloaded episode for 2023, Sean from The Story Till Now.
Yeah.
And I'm sure everybody has heard about Sean from Story Till Now on YouTube. He's, I don't know, 350,000 subscribers on YouTube now, and he's shooting for 1 million. But yeah, he's a great storyteller. He's really great at cinematography. His drone shots are good, but the way he puts it together in a package with the music and that is really great. But this one was quite an interesting one. It was just Sean sitting at home, just relaxing, and I was sitting here relaxing, and it was just, we talked about YouTube, we talked about trucks, and we talked about life, the fact that he spent some time in Japan, and all the things that a lot of people don't realize that came out of that conversation with him. And the fact that he's not one of those egotistical YouTube assholes. He's just a regular guy like you and me. And it was a great conversation. And so definitely recommend checking them out. I actually recommend everybody go back and check out some of the episodes they have not listened to, because we've had great guests over the last year and a half. Right from our very first episode with Mike from The Unexpected Off-Road. Who the hell drives a Hummer off-road? Those things are not supposed to be off-road. They're supposed to be sitting at the mall, right? But we've had some wonderful episodes, and I've got some certain favorites for sentimental reasons or enjoyment reasons. And yeah, I invite everybody to go back, check out any episodes that you've missed. And because you will find some episodes that you may thought, oh, it's not, I don't have a Jeep, or I don't have a Tacoma or a Hummer or whatever. And you end up listening to it, and it turns out to be, I've heard from a few people, so I listened to the episode about Tacoma. I've got a Jeep, and I listen to, say, Ryan Van Veen about Tacoma, or Vil from Crave, or any of the other people. There's G from BC. He's running the Jeep. And I actually had somebody, I think it was on his episode, comment that I drive a Tacoma or a 4Runner, but I listened to G's episode and I actually enjoyed it. I thought I wouldn't enjoy it because it's just another Jeep YouTube guy from BC, but he goes, I actually enjoyed it. So go back, check out some of those older episodes, because you'll never know what you find. There's some hidden gems in there for sure.
Moving on to our affiliates and sponsors. So this year, West, we spoke to and met a lot of 4x4 community companies. So we I guess, partnered with a few companies such as Bright Source Lighting, TOC Supplies, Afraid Not Ropes, Wild Mat Kits, and Mioli Gear. And basically what we want to do to our listeners, our YouTube viewers, is give you guys discount codes as just being part of the 4x4 Canada podcast family. So with Bright Source Lighting, we get 50% off with code 4x4 Canada. With TLC Supplies, 10% off with code 4x4 Canada. Afraid Not Ropes, and that's 10% also with code 4x4 Canada 23. And with Wild Night Kits, 10% off with code 4x4 Canada. And Mioli Gear, 10% off with code 4x4.
And you can see all these codes on our Instagram posts as well as on our website. We have a tab up there called Partners, and you can see all these with links to everybody. Yes, we've been very lucky in that these Canadian companies have offered discounts to our 4x4 Canada family. And we'll be right up front and honest that some of these are affiliate codes where we do get a kickback, but there's actually more where there's not a affiliate program with us. The majority of them are just dicks.
Yep.
Majority are just dicks.
Like, okay, yeah.
No, these people are not dicks. These people are awesome.
Oh my God.
Oh, man. Okay. The majority of these are just discounts for the 4x4 Canada family. And like I say, there is a couple where we do get kickbacks, but those kickbacks go to help us with our monthly cost to help keep the lights on and hopefully provide more gear where we can do more in-person stuff at events and stuff like that. But Bright Source Lighting, great episode. Go back, check. Actually, I should say all of these suppliers have been guests on the show at one point or another. So I highly recommend checking out their episodes. Go back into the history. Bright Source Lighting was not very long ago, but they are a great company. They've got great headlights, everything from flashlights to LED light bars, etc. TOC Supplies was our first company to come on board with us, and they are one of the biggest suppliers of automotive detailing products in Canada. And of course, get that 10% discount off with them. There's some really neat off-road specialty products that they have, and so check them out. Afraid Not Ropes. Ian is not only an ambassador for the 4x4 Canada podcast, but he has done so much with the recovery world in Ontario. He's part of the Trillium off-road recovery thing, and all of his products are made in Canada. So the ropes themselves are made in Canada, and he's been a huge supporter of the 4x4 community in Ontario, and we get 10% discount with them. Wild Med Kits, they are a first aid supplier. He makes all his first aid kits himself. And also, if you already have a kit and you want to top it up or make it a little better, he's got all of the supplies there as well too. So Wild Med Kits on Instagram, the website is a great website. I bought a really nice kit from him. It was like $230 or $250, but it's an absolutely incredible kit. I bought it about a year and a half ago, just after our talk, and I haven't had to use it yet, but which is a great thing. It's a good thing, right?
But yeah, first aid kit, really like.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed that episode because I learned so much. That was one thing. I went in there with questions. I had to buy a new first aid kit because I actually left my old one in my exterior when I sold it. So I needed the new first aid kit. So I went in there with a bunch of questions because I didn't know what I needed. I didn't know what I wanted. And he was able to help me out with all those questions. And I've heard from a lot of listeners that they really learned a lot on that episode. So Wild Med Kits, you get 10% off, code 4x4 Canada. And then Mioli Gear, they have recovery gear, and they also have just come out with their new line of fuel storage. And I do have one of their small, it's like a Protopack style gas can, and I've got one for my diesel heater. So I'll be doing a review on that here real shortly as well too. So Mioli Gear with the code 4x4, you get 10% off. Yeah. And it's like I say, this is all companies that we believe in. We don't want to be pumping mattresses or stuff like that. These are all companies that we believe in product wise and also support the off-road industry in Canada. There we have it with that.
And they're Canadian companies as well.
Yes. Yeah. We actually have turned down a American company because it would be all shipping from the States. And I'm like, well, that just doesn't make sense. You end up paying another double the price of the product for the customs charges and the freight charges and all that stuff. And I wasn't exactly comfortable. We could have made money off it, but that's not the point of doing this, right? And in regards to the affiliate programs or the discount programs, I should say. But yeah. So what else do you think, Trisha?
We just want to say, yes, our last thank you for 2023. It's here. It's going soon. See it in the distance. But we've grown a lot in 2023. And just seeing people reach out to us probably daily now, DMing and saying that they're listening to the podcast on their way to work or from home, or just giving us feedback and tagging us in stories and reels. We love that. Thank you. Keep doing it. And I guess just have a great rest of 2023 with family and friends. Have safe wheeling adventures and all the best coming in 2024.
Yeah, 24 is going to be a wonderful year. We do plan on hitting up some events, and we do have 4x4 Canada podcast shirts coming that we will be rocking at these events. So if you see one of us out there with one of these shirts, don't be scared to say hi. Tell us that you tell us how much you love us and how much you love the episodes and how much you love the podcast. And if you don't like us, then I guess we'll let us know that as well too. But I really can't wait to go to some of these events and visit with everybody. And when I went to the BC Overland Rally, I didn't realize how many people were there that I missed or that I did not see. And so this year, I'm going to be more visible at the events over here with shirts and stuff like that. And I do want to meet all of our listeners as well. One thing I do want to mention to our listeners, if you listen to an episode where we're interviewing a company, so whether it be the ones that we just mentioned with our discount program or another company, whether it be TMR Racing or Sky Tent or Red Bear Outdoors, whatever it is, if you hear an episode and you are talking to the company after, please mention that you did hear the interview on the 4x4 Canada podcast. And especially if you happen to purchase something, it helps them for their marketing to know where people are hearing about their company, etc. But it also makes them realize that 4 Canada podcast is a good thing. They all know it's a good thing, but you know what I'm trying to say. We appreciate if you do purchase or even just visit with them and chat with them that you did hear the podcast or their interview on the podcast. But yeah, 2024 is going to be a great year. I'm super looking forward to it. I know I'm hitting more events out here in BC. I'm hoping to maybe try and hit a couple in Alberta. It all depends on the finances and the timing is. And I know Trisha's got some events that she's going to be hitting in Ontario.
It's going to be fun. Lots of fun. Lots of events.
Definitely.
Lots of wheeling. I got to do a lot of more wheeling this 2024. That's one of my goals.
Yes. Yeah. You had the unfortunate of being a Jeep owner, so you had some downtime.
That's some downtime, guys. That's some downtime, some shop time. Yep.
Yeah, no, it's one of my things too. I want to get out and do some more wheeling this year, and hopefully I can do it with some of our listeners as well too. Once again, what a wonderful 2023. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know if you want to be a guest or you got a suggestion of being a guest, and we'll do everything to make it happen.